Welcome to Mastering Life's Adventures, an educational podcast about tapping into your true self, the soul, the substance of your life, to discover what life's ups and downs are really about, and how to have a greater sense of purpose, peace, joy, and fulfillment. I am Dr. Judith Holder, your host, coach, psychologist, fellow seeker who enjoys diving into the connections between spirituality, psychology, wellness, and your everyday life's adventures. All preparing and polishing you like the facets of a magnificent diamond to be your best self. If you're craving more from your life, you are in the right place. Come, let's journey together and transforming what you know into who you really are. Mastering Life's Adventures begins now.
Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling hurt, replaying it over and over in your mind, only to later realize you may have misunderstood what actually happened, or felt dismissed, or overlooked, or unimportant? Not because of what was said or done, but because of what you believed it meant. There is something subtle but powerful that happens within us. We do not just experience life, we interpret it. Hi, I'm back with another key to soul progress, and that is question your assumptions. And in this episode, we're going to explore two essential things: how the mind automatically assigns meaning to situations without full awareness, and how the interpretation, or should I say misinterpretation, quietly creates emotional pain, distance, conflict. And what I would like you to walk away with is, by the end of our time talking about this, is a deeper understanding of how your perception, not just the events, shapes your experience. And a higher way of seeing that allows your responses to come from awareness rather than conditioned thinking. Let's think about this for a minute. The mind moves pretty quickly. It is designed to interpret, categorize, and conclude almost instantaneously. But the soul does not operate in haste. The soul observes. The soul discerns. The soul waits for truth to reveal itself. And this is where the inner conflict begins, because what you think is happening is often a reflection of your conditioning, of the carnal mind, of the conditioning of what society has given to us, what our families have given to us. We get that conditioning from many different directions, even the media, what it tells to us. But conditioning is not reality. From a higher spiritual perspective, every assumption is a lens. And that lens is either shaped by past wounds or past awareness. And when perception is clouded by past experiences, fears, or unmet needs, you do not see clearly. You see selectively. And the more you believe your interpretation without questioning it, the more you reinforce a limited way of seeing. And this is what happens in relationships. We don't question, we make assumptions. Sometimes in the communication that has happened, or the nonverbal behaviors that might have gone on, we interpret. But we have to ask ourselves a deeper truth. And this is a universal principle that you can look at it at work, you can look at it personally, in your family life, many different directions. Think about this. Energy follows attention, but interpretation directs energy. And if your interpretation is distorted, off the beam, off the balance beam, so to speak, and falling onto the ground, your energy your emotional energy will follow that distortion. It will follow it right down onto the floor, or it will follow it in any direction that your interpretation is going. So our distortion, we have to look at. Because over time, this creates patterns of misunderstanding, emotional reactivity, repeated relational conflicts. Not because life is inherently difficult, but because perception has not yet been refined. And when you're walking a spiritual path and you're involved in relationships, we have to be willing to refine what we see, what we hear, what we communicate, and what we have coming back to us through other people and what they're communicating and what they're saying and how they're interpreting things as well. So here's a kind of a grounding of this. And I've talked about Rebecca before, and I'm going to be talking about her in the future as well. But Rebecca had been working on expressing herself more openly. And this was something that we talked about in one of the prior episodes. And in the past, she avoided difficult conversations. She kept the peace, but at the cost of her own voice. Now she was learning to speak honestly. One evening, she shared something deeply personal with her partner. And her partner listened quietly, nodded, and then shifted the conversation. Immediately, Rebecca's inner dialogue activated. He doesn't care. That wasn't important to him. I shouldn't have said anything. And her body responded. She withdrew emotionally. The connection shifted. And by the next day, her partner said something unexpected. I've been thinking about what you shared. I didn't want to respond too quickly. I wanted to really understand it. And in that moment, something opened within her. Rebecca is learning emotional reactions often arise not from truth, but from interpretation. And deeper still, when you react to an assumption, you close yourself to understanding. We shut down. We get defensive. We get annoyed. We don't want to hear what someone else has to say to us. If we're involved in a relationship, or we're involved in a family matter, or whatever, we really, I think of it as shrinking. But her soul is being invited into a higher capacity to remain present, even when clarity has not yet arrived. And at a more advanced level of consciousness, be aware that silence is not empty. It is often processing. But the untrained mind interprets silence as absence. The awakened awareness allows space for meaning to unfold, rather than forcing it prematurely. Sometimes we have to give people distance. We have to be willing to know maybe they're thinking about this. And sometimes we may just say, I know I just said something to you. Is it something you're kind of want to ponder a little bit more? And they might say, yeah, I need to, especially if your partner or the person you're involved with tends to be more introverted or more quiet in how they respond to things. It's far better to be able to ask the question or engage in a caring way to understand where this person may be coming from. So let's talk about another situation. David had begun to feel increasingly frustrated in meetings, which we talked about last time in the prior episode. And each time he spoke, his manager would interject. And to David, this meant, I'm not respected. My ideas aren't valued. So he adjusted, he spoke less, he disengaged, and what he didn't realize was that his interpretation, not the behavior itself, was shaping his experience. And during a later conversation, his manager said, "I actually depend on your input. I move quickly in meetings, but I expect you to continue your thought." David had misread the entire situation. David is learning assumptions create internal conclusions that alter external behavior. How we think does impact how we behave. And those behaviors then reinforce the original assumption. And it's like a round robin that keeps on going around, and we're not realizing that we're on a merry-go-round with these assumptions that we're making that are not in our best interest. Because this is how patterns become self-sustaining. And these patterns psychologically become habits. And habits become entrenched sometimes, and we immediately make an assumption about something that is far from what the reality is, but we're so quick to do it because we're so used to doing it. And there is a deeper truth here. The mind seeks closure, but truth often requires openness. And when you close meaning too quickly, you limit perception. And when perception is limited, your response cannot be aligned with truth. You're not on solid ground. There are many assumptions that we make that we have to really challenge a little bit more actively. We have to actually ask, what is the real situation going on here? We have to talk to the person. We have to ask our inner self, our soul self, the substance of our life, the Christic energy, the I am presence, the creator, the God that exists within us, asking us to see things in a different way so that we bypass the assumptions and get into what is really happening. Let's take Elena, who was deeply intuitive. And I think there are many women, raise your hand if you're intuitive. It's just a natural quality that we do have. I'm not saying all. I'm saying certain women. She could feel emotional undercurrents in any environment. And this is especially people in the helping profession, be it nurses or be it psychologists, be it mental health professionals, be it people who like to serve. They can pick up on the vibe, as is said. They can pick up on what's going on in the environment. But what she began to see, this is Elena, is that she often personalized. She took it personally. And it maybe was not meant to be taken personally. But that's one of the issues that go on with being really intuitive, because we sometimes take on other people's energies, we're not realizing they're not our energies. They're a sense that we have of what may be going on in the pond and the ripples that are taking place. So we have to be able to do this. Or we have to be willing to look at, if someone was quiet, look at how we interpret it. They must be upset with me. If someone didn't respond, I must not matter, taking it personally. What she was experiencing felt real, and it often does feel real for us. We're highly sensitive individuals, women and men as well. But I think there's a special quality that women bring to the equation of that sensitivity. But it was not necessarily true. It's what we have to know. For the Elenas of the world, it's not necessarily true. And what Elena was learning, when perception is filtered through self-doubt, everything feels personal. And the deeper pattern is that the unquestioned assumptions reinforce identity. And we move out of the light of being more Christ-like and move into the direction of being more personality-based, more based in ego personas you've heard me talk about in previous episodes. And this deeper pattern is this: unquestioned assumptions reinforce identity, and she believes she is not enough. her interpretation will consistently confirm it. We use confirmation bias. We try to see, for example, just in general, if you're driving on a highway and you want to, person was talking about red cars and their love of red cars, then you see all these red cars that are flying around, or white cars, or blue navy cars that are moving all about. You just start seeing them. Why is that? Because it heightened our awareness. And in that awareness, now we have what is called confirmation. Yeah, there are a lot of blue cars or a lot of white cars or whatever the color car is. And a higher level of spiritual development is taking it up a little step, taking up a little bit more for you to begin to separate observation from interpretation. You see what is happening without immediately assigning meaning. And in that space, truth has the opportunity to emerge. So I'm not saying not to see what you're noticing around you with the interactions you're having at work or at home or with your partner or with your children or whatever it may be. What you're doing also is trying to create space so that you're not immediately attaching a meaning to something. You're being more curious. You're even asking a little bit more questions. Because in that process, truth has the opportunity to come forth, that you can be able to see something in a different way with the additional information you receive because you've asked more questions. The work here is not simply to think differently. It is to refine perception. And you heard me talk about the soul and the refinement of the soul and the sensitivity of the soul. And the more that we refine our perceptions, refine who we are showing up as, the better things show themselves in the light. Because perception determines emotional experience, our behavioral responses, our relational outcomes, or even our views about ourselves. And ultimately, your level of consciousness of how we think impacts our level of consciousness. How we feel and the behaviors we engage in all impact levels of consciousness. So there are 3 higher shifts in awareness that I would like to invite you to think about. One is from immediate meaning, conscious inquiry. Be able to ask, what am I assuming right now? And what's leading me to make those assumptions? It may be things from the past, experiences. It may be something that is going on currently. It may be something that you have thought about in your mind and it's kind of coming up on something you may have worried about. So first and foremost, look at the immediate meaning, and that's the conscious awareness. Number 2, from emotional certainty, move to inner observation. So you're moving from immediate meaning to conscious inquiry. Now you're moving from emotional certainty to inner observation. And you can ask yourself, is this feeling coming from truth or from past experience? And sometimes we need time and space to sort it through to find out, which way are we headed here? Are we looking at the past from what has happened to us? Are we living in the now and asking our Christ self, asking our I am presence, asking the Atman, the Creator, what's happening here with this feeling? Where is it coming from? Help to reveal it to me. And 3 is from personalization to expanded awareness. And when we expand our awareness, we look at possibilities. We don't shut that door. We keep it open. So we may ask ourselves, what else could be influencing this situation beyond me? There may be other variables taking place within that person's world, the situation that's happening. It could be related to they having other family issues or some concerns at work or some concerns with their children, and that's all tying into the response and how they're showing up. And here is getting back to how does this relate to spiritual progress? Truth is not revealed through reaction. It is revealed through stillness and awareness. Stillness. Taking time to quiet the mind, quiet the heart, ponder, and be aware of what's coming up, what's coming into your environment, what's trying to give you some answers that you may have questions to, because they can come in so many different ways, those answers. And they may come through other people. They may come through something you hear. There may be something that you're writing about and the answer starts to pop in. So there's many different ways that we can build awareness and having stillness and a quiet space within us and around us to help us to really get at what is the truth in this matter. The more still you become internally, the more accurately you perceive externally. The more that you pray and you ask God to clear your inner world and reside in peace, the more you have the perception to see what might be going on here. You have more of the fortitude maybe to ask some questions that gives you further clarity. Take a moment and reflect. Where in your life are you reacting to something you have not verified? Is it with a relationship, or a particular conversation that you had with a colleague, or with your child, or with your mother-in-law? And also professional interactions. So where in your life are you reacting to something that has not been verified, has not been validated? And then, what meaning have you created? We have to be just stewards of our mind and be an observer of our mind and understand what information we're circling around in our mind and what do we need to say. And when we can do that, it means that you're able to take a pause to ask the question. And that's a step in the right direction. But in general, when you're asking yourself, what meaning have you created that you have never paused to question? And that has the meaning cost. And what has the meaning cost you? So think about this. Because of having so much information or thoughts that are circulating in our mind, we got to look at what meaning have you created? What is the outcome of all these thoughts with this particular situation or person that you're having these thoughts about that you have never paused to question, that you have not taken the time to say, again, is it true? Is there another way of looking at this? Because what you're trying to be more aware of, that there is a cost to the meaning that you're tagging to something. And you want to think about, what's that cost to you? Is it connection with someone? Peace? Not finding it internally because of what you're interpreting? Clarity? Feeling a little bit foggy? Not sure what to do or how to do it? And at a deeper level, this teaching is not just psychological. It is spiritual. What is often described as the Christ consciousness within, the soul essence that exists within us, the soul that is united to the Christ, and the Christ is showing us how to be more Christ-like. What is often described with that is the capacity to perceive without distortion. When we're anchored in that awareness of the spiritual nature within us, then we're always striving, we're always refining, we're always willing to look at where are the distortions? What's a little bit off? Am I seeing it accurately? Because to see clearly, you respond from truth rather than fear or anxiety or feeling angst or feeling mad or feeling sad or annoyed. To remain open is where the conditioned mind would close. So truth is our point of origin, is our point of being like the stake in the ground. We want to know the truth in a situation. If we don't do that, then we're not realizing how often we are swimming around through different levels of fear and uncertainty. And that remains open. We're always swimming in those waters because that is the conditioned mind who doesn't put closure to things. It's always circulating around and around. So each time you question an assumption, you interpret. Each time you question an assumption, you interrupt a conditioned pattern. Each time you pause before concluding something, you create space for truth. And in that space, your awareness begins to elevate. Your consciousness begins to elevate. You're able to see different things. It's all the analogy I used periodically through these episodes about there's 3 ways of moving through life. And some of you may be able to repeat this with me. There's one way that we move is on the skateboard. And on the skateboard, we're just trying to move through life and move and observe and see what we need to see, but not getting off the skateboard. We're just being aware. Another way that we move through life is floating. Some situations we just need to float, take the space, just relax, float like on a raft. Just float and observe. Observe the blue sky. Observe what is coming and going in the cloud formations, for example. And a third way is we have to be like on a springboard or a trampoline is what I usually say, on a trampoline. And that trampoline, you're bouncing to see something higher. You're bouncing to be aware that there's a greater vision by which you can see things by. Each one can move you to a different level of consciousness. And ultimately, when you're walking a spiritual path, you are trying to move to higher awareness, a higher attunement, a higher alignment with your Christ, with your Creator, with your Atman, with the Lord, with Jesus Christ. Whoever that key figure is in your life, you're trying to be able to raise the consciousness, because it's in raising our consciousness we can stop those assumptions. We don't have to have them automatically appear in our world. Because most of the pain we experience is not from what actually happened. It is from what we believed happened. And when you begin to question your assumptions, you begin to free yourself from unnecessary suffering. You begin to see more clearly, and you begin to respond from a higher place within yourself. And that is what it's all about. We're always refining, as you heard me say, and growing and understanding in order to be our best self each and every day in all situations. We have a great opportunity each day to improve, each day to be able to laugh and be joyful and to be able to understand, oh, I made that assumption. You're not trying to take it personally. You're not trying to say I'm a terrible person because I made that assumption. What you are trying to do is being aware when those assumptions come up and then thinking about, what do I want to do about it? Something to think about. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining me for this episode on Mastering Life's Adventures, being your best self through soul evolution. If you have enjoyed what you've heard today, I would be delighted if you would share this episode with others, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe to my Mastering Life's Adventures podcast. Look forward to your joining the next episode. Please leave any comments or suggestions you might have below. Bye for now.